Salt Lake City, Utah's capital and a large metropolitan area with people spreading across the entire valley. When thinking of Salt Lake, your first thought might not be wildlife, but you can find wildlife all over the valley. From our year-round residents to migrants that only stay here for parts of the year, there are birds all around. Nestled within our rivers and waterways, and even our city parks. We get lots of birds in the summer in Salt Lake. Spring brings the first wave of migrants, and it's when birds really explode across the valley. New species come in and show up after a long winter. But some of these birds make Salt Lake their summer home and stick around. You just need to know where to look. If you want to find birds in the valley, follow the water. Our waterways cut through neighborhoods, parks, and backyards, and for many species, they're the reason to stop here and stay at all. They provide food, cover, a break from our hot summer heat, all in one long ribbon of green. One of those ribbons is Parley's Creek. It starts up in the mountains east of the city, and from there it works its way down through parks and even underground at times before meeting up with the Jordan River. In some of these parks where it surfaces, you can find an abundance of wildlife. And while many birds prefer to skulk and stay hidden in the undergrowth, you'll find birds that make themselves very known. Early in the summer, you can hear songs echoing around the river. Birds are getting ready to breed or in the middle of breeding and trying to find partners, and so they sing. A fan favorite summer resident and very vocal songster is the Yellow Warbler. These little yellow bundles of energy are some of the first birds to make the trek into the area. Arriving in early April, many move through, but some make their homes here in Salt Lake. If you take a stroll around many of our waterways, especially ones lined with trees, you're almost certainly going to hear their song. And Salt Lake is lucky to have such a cool breeding warbler species here in the valley. And while Parley's Creek is a wonderful place to bird, the more famous waterway that cuts through the entire Salt Lake County and even parts of Utah County is the Jordan River. There is pristine birding along much of this river, and you can find birds pretty much in any segment of it. And while the water sustains the local wildlife, taking a step back from the water's edge shows various types of habitats with even more birds. There's songbirds in the trees lining the river. And moving further back from the banks, you'll find grasslands with many different types of plants supporting their own set of species as well. Both types of goldfinch and even the house finch seem to really love these thistle plants growing in the grassy areas. And while many people hate these plants because they'll poke you, these goldfinch seem to love the food and meals they're able to pick from the flowers. While the river itself is obviously important to the local wildlife, the grassland habitats surrounding the river are equally as important, as they have plenty of species. A segment of the Jordan River Trail borders the side of this habitat, and most people zip through on bikes or go on their run without having a second look at the species that live right alongside us. And yet amazing birds live right here, including one of the favorites, a king, some might say. The Western Kingbird is a pretty unmistakable medium-sized bird with a lemony yellow underwash and an ashy gray head, along with black eye stripes and a black beak. There's not too many other birds quite like it in the Salt Lake area. You can also find their eastern counterparts here in Salt Lake, but they're much more rare compared to the Western Kingbird, and they're pretty easy to separate with their differing plumages. Once a Western Kingbird has a territory, it will defend it. It's not uncommon to see a Western Kingbird chasing off a much larger species like a red-tailed hawk. They want these territories to breed and bring the next generation of kingbirds into the world. These are also their hunting grounds. Western Kingbirds are part of the tyrant flycatcher family, and so they exhibit many typical flycatcher behaviors, and they use these perches to scan and survey the area for their next meal. And so you will often see them perched up on plants, barbed wire, utility poles, and telephone wires, making the species actually adapted well to live alongside humans, and therefore their range is actually expanded with human intervention, not retracted. And so they will sit and wait and look all around, watching for that little darting insect that flies by, unknowingly that an apex predator is right nearby them. They'll even head to the ground to chase down an insect too. Although the Western Kingbird isn't as agile or quick of a flyer as some of Salt Lake's other summer residents, the swallow species, from barn swallows to northern rough-winged swallows, bank swallows, and cliff swallows, they are still incredible at tracking down and hunting insects without these same kind of capabilities. Once locked on to an insect, the kingbird will go after it. And then they'll characteristically return to the perch from which they started to gulp down their caught meal. Afterwards, it's right back to it, taking off again to go look for the next insect. In Salt Lake, these birds are pretty easy to find in our summer months. They make chattering, squeaky-like calls that can be heard pretty clearly when you're in their habitat, and you just have to look around once you come across that noise. Their hunting style also makes them easy to find because they're generally perched in a good surveying spot that also makes them easy to see. And so Western Kingbirds live alongside us, but Salt Lake also has another summer resident that gets even closer to humans. This is, of course, a hummingbird. Specifically, this is the Black-chinned Hummingbird. This is the most common and often the earliest hummingbird species to arrive to Salt Lake City, showing up as early as April in some years. They're quite adaptable and can make a variety of habitats their home, which is why they're just as comfortable in a city like Salt Lake. These birds beat their wing beats so quickly that they're able to hover in place while they feed. And their tongues are perfectly adapted to fit into long flowers like this one that other birds can't reach. They lick their tongue about 13 to 17 licks per second as they fill up on nectar. One of the best parts about these birds is they're really easy to attract to your backyard. Make a nectar mixture of 1 part sugar to 4 parts water, put it in a hummingbird feeder, and hang it outside, Doesn't honestly really even matter where you hang it as long as it's visible. And with a little bit of patience, in no time you should have some hummingbirds coming to check out your feeder. This is such a great way to get people interested in birds by bringing them so close to you, and an awesome way to live harmoniously with the wildlife around us. There's hardly a better way to enjoy a breakfast or a morning cup of coffee than while watching some hummingbirds sip away at the nectar right outside your back door. These energetic birds are one of the best parts of summer and one of our coolest species by far. And if you're lucky enough to catch one of the males in the right sunlight, you'll even get some brilliant flashes of purple as the sun reflects off of its neck feathers. As you can see, even in the heat of summer in Salt Lake, there's various habitats that support a number of different species. They live right alongside us in our parks and in our backyards and on the trails we walk day to day.